I am, uh, I am, I am quiet. There we go, there we go. I am delighted to be here at this conference. I could hardly wait. Over and over again, I said, I can hardly wait to be here at Bold for Jesus. Be bold for Jesus. I need to tell you something before I start. If you don't, how many of you have never seen me work before? May I see your hands? That makes me kind of sad. But I need to tell you that so you'll understand where I'm coming from. I'll tell you this way. A man and a woman were in the hospital. She was giving birth to her first son. And they decided there that they would name their boy Odd. And the nurses asked, what is the boy's name? We need to record this. And they said, his name is Odd. And they said, well, what is his name? And they said, that's it, Odd, O-D-D. The nurses left, went out into the hallway, and of course, they began laughing. They'd never heard this before. The boy started grade school, and he was always in trouble, in fights, being bullied because of his name. When he was a young man, he got jobs, and he got kicked off of his jobs because he would get into arguments with his supervisors and with his fellow work people because of his name, Odd. And so toward the end of his life, he said to his wife, I do not want to die and have this follow me. He said, when I die, I do not want my name on some tombstone. People laughing at me. I want just the day I was born and the day I died. And a few months later, he passed away. And true to his wishes, his wife wrote on the tombstone just the day he was born and the day that he died. But even to this day, as people walk through the graveyard, they look at that tombstone and go, isn't that odd? Now, I'm going to make a request here. If it's okay, I'm a little bit frightened. I've fallen off one stage before. Would it bother you if we had the lights up a little bit so I can see you? Would that bother you at all? Would you mind doing that? I think the screens will still be very visible. Is that okay? Can you still see well? Oh, because I want to see you too, and I don't want to fall again. But anyway, I love watching you when I tell a story like that, because did you hear the people laugh? It just sort of started and then it grew. That was because there were a lot of people going, I didn't get that. What was that? What was that all about? I have been this way all my life. It is a gift. The doctor, not the doctor, a radio personality asked me one time, when did you first realize that this was something that you are, that this weirdness is something that you are? And I said, I think everybody realized it right after the doctor slapped me on the behind and said, it's a boy. It's a boy. Because that's the way God does. He knows what he wants you to do to start with. I remember coming out of my house one time, and I had forgotten my daytimer. Are there any of you old enough to remember what a daytimer is? Where you had your to-do list, and if you lost it, you didn't know what to do because it was in the book. And so it was a very important piece of paper, and I didn't know where it was. So I remembered that sometimes I drop things in the back seat of the car, and it's just a mess back there, but sometimes I just drop it there. So I stopped the car, I knelt on the front seat, and I bent into the back seat and began digging for my daytimer. I left my car in gear. While I'm digging for the daytimer, my car's moving down the street. 5-10 miles an hour. I don't know the exact speed because I can't see with that part of my body. I can't. I quickly looked, as I got my day timer, I looked and saw stuff moving past the car window. And I drew a conclusion. I'm a college graduate. My car's moving. Before I could get to the brakes, my car hit a light post less than a block from our house. How many of you have had your airbag go off? That's not a fun experience, is it? And the sad part of it is, television tries to make it look like a fun experience. Remember when they would show it and it would be like in slow motion, like some kind of Salvation marshmallow coming out? Come to Dada, you have a boo-boo, that kind of thing. It's not like that. It just goes, that's it. You don't see it coming, you don't hear it coming. All you know is that your nose hurts worse than you've ever had it hurt in your life. My glasses were embedded in my head. And when I finally opened my eyes, remember, I still don't know what happened. I wondered, why is a hanky hanging from my steering wheel? It hurt bad, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you all night. A bad word began to form in the back of my head. And I see some of you going, you had a bad word? Yeah, it formed right there. I still see people going, what word? The one you're thinking will work just fine. But by God's grace, it never got to my lips because of the way He made me. I start thinking about airbag. By the way, would you be offended if I took this coat off? Because I'm starting to get really warm, and I would prefer not to do that, get really warm. And now, where was I? Oh, airbag. I started thinking about, I'm 76 years old. Oh, yeah, we're with Be Bold for Jesus. Yeah, okay. I started thinking about airbag. When I was a boy, there was no such thing as an airbag. Some of you may remember that. There was no airbag. My mother was the safety device in our car. I see some of you doing it. You remember it, don't you? I remember going, Mom, ow. Ow. Why did you do that? My mom said, I kept you from going through the windshield. I begged her, can I go through the windshield next time, please? That's why I loved riding with my grandma, because Grandma had that thing under her arm, that forerunner to the airbag thing. You get in an accident with Grandma, it didn't hurt. Wow. It didn't hurt. Oh, you smell like Noxema for a couple of days. I had a teenager yell the other day, what's Noxema? I said, it's a drug. Old people used to use it. I want you to get used to the fact. Now, I'm going to get some points across here, but we're going to have fun at the same time, and you'll understand where I'm going in a little while. Another example of that is one time we were traveling, of my weirdness, we're traveling across the country with 2 small dogs, which means that it's going to take you twice as long as if you didn't have 2 small dogs. Because you have to stop about every hour so that the dogs can take a walk. And every time just about, that's all they do, is take a walk. Sometimes they run away and you have to catch them and bring them back. And you do that maybe 5, 6 times. We were gone for 12 hours. We finally got to a hotel. It was not a nice hotel because it took dogs. They let you have dogs in the hotel. And we walked into the hotel, and I'm going to just tell you this. You know that humor involves some exaggeration, right? This is not an exaggeration. Worst hotel I've ever been in. Scariest hotel I've ever been in. There were drug deals going down openly, right in the open, in the lobby of this hotel. They gave us a key for our room. When is the last time you got a key for your room? With a little plastic tag on it that has your room number. So if you lose your key, someone can come and visit you. But we were there, we were exhausted, didn't know what to do. We opened the door and turned around, and there was no inside lock. Are some of you staying here? Inside the room, there's another lock, so that even if someone did have a key to get into your room, a credit card, or whatever that card is, they couldn't get in. It stopped. This had nothing. There was no security. The only safety thing in the whole room was a strip of paper around the toilet lid that said, "For your protection." I slept with that. I'm serious. Someone break into my room, I'll be going, "Get away." You ever had a paper cut? True story. That, of course, is just fun. That's fun. But from here on to the end of this story, there is no exaggeration. This is true. And it's scary. We took the dogs for one last walk. And then we fell into bed and just fell asleep right away. About an hour later, I got up because at 76, I have to take a couple walks myself. I didn't turn on the lights because I didn't want to wake my sweetheart, and I started toward the bathroom, and halfway there, the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I saw a movement in our room, and this is the truth. I turned to look, and there was a man standing in our closet in his underwear. And I instinctively hit at him, and I almost broke my fist on the mirror that was in our closet. That's true. It hurt. I woke up my wife, Diane. She said, "What is it? What is it?" I said, "I have taken care of it, baby." By the way, do any of you have dogs? What kind of dog do you have? Not a dog. Pomeranian. That's I'm sorry, it's not a dog, I'm telling you. Pomeranian. If you have a sign in your yard that says, "This home protected by a Pomeranian," I will rob you blind. They're cute, they really are, but they don't do nothing. Anyone have a Chihuahua? You have a Chihuahua. Well, I'm sorry, I'm out of the light here, but you have a Chihuahua, huh? Look at me. Why? What's that? You brought a Chihuahua home? Everybody makes mistakes. That's so funny. Here's my Chihuahuas kill me. Here's my imitation of a Chihuahua. They never move forward. And they shake, right? And their eyeballs sometimes scrape on the floor, they hang out so far. Anybody got a real dog? Someone must, huh? What do you have? German short-haired pointer. I don't mean to offend you, sir, but if a dog requires more than 5 words for a name, or 4, I know what it is. It's a pointer, but I want a dog. What? Border collie. Okay. I know where that's needed, by the way. What do you got? What do you got? Wow. Has anybody got a dog like a German Shepherd?
He is a German Shepherd.
Oh, he is a German Shepherd. That's a dog. This home protected by a German Shepherd. That, if I were to be at your place and come at you and start hitting you or something, that shepherd would tear me to pieces because they're very loyal. And is this your daughter?
My niece.
Oh, your niece? She's going like this. So she has hit you and been attacked? Is that what she said? Yeah, German Shepherd. Yeah, that's a dog. And I've done studies. Where is the Chihuahua person? Same person in the same family. Oh, this is a different family. So Chihuahua, German Shepherd. Do you want to hear good news about the Chihuahua? I just read this. Chihuahua can kill a German Shepherd. Yeah, get caught in his throat. That's why you see a lot of German Shepherds walking around going, Chihuahua. Do you know how they named the Chihuahua? Little committee got together and said, this is a new dog here, and we're going to name this dog. Anybody got any ideas? One guy raised his hand. He said, let's name the dog Chow. And the guy that was leading the meeting said, we can't name him Chow because there'll already be a dog named Chow. And the guy said, wow. And it just went on from there, Chihuahua. I really have no hesitation in admitting that I'm strange. My son-in-law is in a group called Legacy 5. Some of you may have heard of Legacy 5. He used to sing with the cathedrals, and then when they passed away, he started his own group. And I notice things other people don't notice. How many of you have ever listened to Southern gospel music? May I see your hands? Have you noticed that the tenors, the people that sing those high notes, when they hit the high note, their leg comes up? Have you noticed that? I couldn't figure that out. Put a comma there. I'll come back. Just put a comma there. We're sitting at the table one day when my children were young, and one of them looked up at me and said, ew, ew. And I said, what's wrong with you? And she said, you have a hair growing out of your nose. Ew. And I turned to my wife, Diane, and I said, are you going to let her disrespect me like this? And Diane looked at me and went, ew. She said, you need to do something about that. And so I had to go buy a razor kind of thing. It's a round thing that's got two razor things on it, and it goes around. They wanted $60 for this thing. I'm not paying $60 for that. So I found in the back of a comic book one that was manual. It's just a little thing about this high that has like plier things and two tubes with the edges on it. And I thought, good, $6, I'm going to save my family money. I was sitting in my office the day that came. I'll never forget it. I unwrapped it. How happy my wife was going to be that I saved about $60 on this thing. And I wrapped it and I looked at it and I thought I'd be a millionaire if I had done this. This is great. Look at those little things go around. And I jammed it into my nose and I squeezed it. It didn't cut nothing, but it grabbed every hair in my nose. I had tears shooting out of this eye, 2.5 feet. I ran around the room. This thing is dangling from my nose like this. And I was screaming, ow, it hurt, ow, ow. I went into where my wife is, and you're going to get to know her. We're going to give you a chance to meet her at intermission. Ow, ow, I said, oh, I bought this and say, ow, ow. She said, grow up, and yanked it out. And my leg went up like that. I have fought weight all my life. I wrote a book about how God helped save me from physical destruction and spiritual destruction, not meaning that he would ever let me go, but I had stepped off the path. And in order to lose weight, I tried a lot of things, some stupid things, like getting the fat content of my body analyzed so that you know what percentage of your body is fat. This is crazy. Just look down. 75 bucks. It was at a swimming pool, and they had a swing. Some of you may have had this done. They had a swing in the middle of the swimming pool. And they weighed you at the edge of the swimming pool. Then the doctor told me, fat floats and muscle sinks. So we're gonna weigh you underwater, and we're gonna weigh you here and subtract. I'm paying him 75 bucks to do simple math. So he pulled the swing over and let it out there, and he said, by the way, air also floats, so let all the air out of your body. This is a request that had never been made of me before. And he realized what I was thinking, so he said, no, just breathe out until you have no more air in your body. So I went, ha, 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 ha. The thing went underwater. Yeah. Now, he can't get an accurate weighing until it stops bouncing because he just dropped it in the water. Do you know how long that takes? I saw Jesus at the end of a tunnel. Grandma was there. I thought I was going to die, and then he yanked it up and said, "Yup, you're fat." I said, "I want a second opinion." He said, "You're ugly too." All my life. We had something happen at our church. I was at a meeting at church, and my wife has always told me, don't leave the keys in the ignition of the car. But when the meeting was done, I couldn't find my keys. I checked everywhere. Under the table, I checked at the reception desk, no keys. No keys anywhere. And then I remembered, I bet you I left them in the ignition. Because this is a smart thing to do. If they're in the ignition, you don't have to find them in some crack. You find the car, whoo, there's the keys. But my wife, Diane, has told me, do not leave the keys in the car. She said, someone is going to steal your car. Don't do it. Well, I knew she was going to be upset. I went out to get the car. It was gone. It should have been right outside the door. It was gone. I called the police. I told them the church I was at. I said, someone has stolen my car. And then I made the most important call of all. I called my wife, Diane. And when she answered the phone, I said, sweet baby, I have disobeyed you. I left the keys in the ignition of the car, and the car has been stolen. Nothing, just silence. I said, sweet baby, are you there? Nothing. I thought AT&T had dropped a call. I said, baby, are you there? She said, Ken, I dropped you off at church. I said, come and get me. And she said, I will, as soon as I convince this policeman I have not stolen your car. Finally, I'm excited to be here today because I can't keep my mouth shut. This gets me in trouble, but it's what we're being encouraged to do when it comes to Jesus. Otherwise, it gets me in big trouble. I've been in so much trouble because I can't keep this going. I can't keep it shut. When 9/11 happened, they changed the whole procedure for getting on an airplane. And in the first days, I thought they were little tense. And I was going through, and they had that paddle. You remember the paddle? Looked like what your mom used to spank you with, but it had lights and little noises. And then they go, and then if there was a problem, it would beep. So it's going around, and when it went across my area here, my wrist, it beeped. Beep! National emergency. The boy that was working on me had a patch on this shoulder and a chip on this one. He said, pull up your sleeve. I had a diving watch on my hand. He said, what is that? I said, in Tennessee, we call that a watch. Now, I should have stopped there, but my lips were already moving. I said, this one's got a lifetime guarantee. When it quits, a little razor blade comes out and slits your wrist. That's the wrong answer. I now know what a full body search is. So many times, it's just nobody in here would ever want to have that kind of search. So I started to learn to kind of keep quiet. But then I came back another time. And first of all, I had a little bottle of eye liquid. And back then, they didn't allow any liquid at all. Now they allow a little bit, but they didn't allow any. And my doctor gave me that because if I don't have that, my eyes stay shut and they won't come open. And so he said, you're going to have to leave that here. I said, I can't. The doctor gave that to me. He said, where's the prescription? This is true. I said, it's on the bottle. He said, no, you can't just show me the bottle. You got to show me the thing with the doctor's signature. I said, I'm going to miss my flight. It doesn't matter. He said, you can't take that on there. That might be explosive. And after about 7 minutes of this, he said, see that table over there? There's some plastic bags there. Put it in one of those little plastic bags, Ziploc bags, and then it'll be okay. Shouldn't that have happened near the beginning of the conversation? And anyway, I started thinking, if it really is explosive, what's the plastic bag going to do? Oh, okay, we're safe. Got up to the front of the line, and the guy said, give me your luggage. Gave him the luggage. He said, you stand here and you don't say anything. So I stood there, and he opened my luggage, and he started digging through my luggage. I started laughing. Not out loud, because I don't like the body search, so I just started laughing at it. Because I'd been gone for 49 days. Oh, yeah, that was bad luggage. There was underwear in there I was afraid of. And he's taking them out, laying them on the table in front of 200 people. I wanted to say, hey, you want to see a security risk? There's a security risk right there. Kept my mouth shut. And then he found them. Some of you remember this. Fingernail clippers. Came over and said, what are these? I said, in Tennessee, we call them fingernail clippers. He said, what are you planning to do with them? Well, he asked. I said, I was thinking that maybe after the airplane took off, I could work my way through the fuselage with him. That's the wrong answer. I saw the look on his face. I just found a little room and got naked by myself. Little old lady came to the line. She's in a wheelchair, and they have to hold her up for secondary screening. Now, one of the things that makes my mouth run is things that don't make any sense. She's been screened once, she's in a wheelchair, but she needs to be secondary screened because there's just something suspicious about this lady. They had to hold her up. They're going over with the wand. I'll never forget it. They got about halfway done. She said, if I miss my flight, I'm going to kill some people. She missed her flight. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. The people that are doing this job are doing a great job to keep us safe. And I have friends in that community all over the world. Sometimes I go into an airport and they've seen one of my videos or something and they'll say, okay, you come over here. And they'll start patting me down and start laughing. I say, what's going on? He said, I've seen your video. So we need to be grateful for those people. So I can't keep my mouth shut, so I have to, I just thought of another story. I have ADHD. We're talking about people in authority. I'm a hunter. If that offends you, I'm very sorry. I hunt with a bow and arrow, and I'm a pilot. I had a bush plane. I got an elk one time, and I skinned it all out. I took all the bones off, kept just the meat, and then I went and got my airplane, and I landed where there was no runway on the top of a mountain. Okay? Not like the top here, but on a place where it was flat. The landing was just fine. I put all the elk meat in the back, and then I thought, I wonder if this plane will get off the ground before it goes down into this huge valley, this big valley, because it went right off the edge of that cliff. And then I remembered from my training, it's going to be okay. I backed up as far as I could. I actually backed up beyond where I thought I would start. And I poured the coal to it, and by the time I got to the edge, I realized I still didn't have quite enough speed to fly. So I went over the edge and pushed the nose down, and it picked up enough airspeed, and I flew out of there with the elk, landed at a perfectly calm day, and crashed the airplane at an airport. It did a tail swing like this, and it sheared off the landing gear, and then one wing lit up. This is a true story. One wing went out like this. I didn't have a bruise. God is good. I didn't have a bruise. I crawled out of that top window, and as I crawled out, a little truck pulled up, and a big old guy got out of the truck, and he was pulling on his belt like this, and he said, I'm with the FAA, and I'm here to help you, not to hurt you. If you ever hear that, run! I love you people. You have a sense of humor. Some of these folks don't. I'm here to help you, not to hurt you. Are you okay? I said, yes, sir. But you might want to check on my passenger. That was the wrong answer. Wow, what time did we start? We started at 7? Oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna tell you this, and then is it okay if we go a little longer before the break? Okay. I want to tell you this. I can't keep my mouth shut about this. Here's a reason to be bold for Jesus, because he is the author of joy. God is the author of joy. He's the one that created it. I grew up in a family where if it was fun, it was wrong. Anybody grow up like that? My picture of God was that he stood in heaven and went, behold, Ken Davis haveth fun. No. He's the one that created joy. He's delighted with your laughter, especially when it's over clean, good things. He's delighted with that. We live in a world now that is desperate for joy. We live in a world that's offended by everything. And we need to be, if we're people of the Lord, if we're people of faith, we need to have joy. People ought to be breaking down the doors to our church to find out what the celebration is all about. We can no longer present the gospel of Jesus Christ with a face that looks like we swallowed a profusely sweating toad. I've met these people. I've been a Christian for 27 years. It's been great. I want to say you need to send some missionaries to your face. Your face has not yet received the good news. I'm going to give you proof that God is the author of joy. I want you to answer me with enthusiasm and loud. Whose day is Sunday? It's the Lord's day. It's God's day. Now answer me this. Who hates Sunday? Satan hates Sunday. And he tries to destroy it almost every Sunday. How many of you found yourself as parents with your hands around the throat of a child that you love very much on Sunday going, you get ready for church and you get ready now, you understand? So we can get there on time to learn about the love of Jesus. I see some younger people laughing. On church, you guys become demon-possessed on Sunday. I had two daughters, these two beautiful little girls down here. I had two daughters like you, and they would get in the back seat of the car on Sunday and fight over stuff that made no sense whatsoever. This is my side of the car. I drew a line, and some of your molecules are coming over the line. Daddy, you hear this? You ever hear this? She's looking at me. Never say that. Brain damage if you keep doing that. There's no answer to she's looking at me. There's no answer to that. You want to mess with them, say something like, she hit me with a crowbar. We know how to handle that. Give me that. Don't do it again. How many of you on the way to church ever grabbed the rearview mirror and gave your children the Sunday morning look of love just to prepare for worship? And then you say something that doesn't make sense. You want me to come back there? Let me tell you what your kids are thinking. Yeah, come on back. Come on, you're doing 75 miles an hour. Come on back. Let's see what happens to the car. And you're doing 75 miles an hour because why? You're late. You're late for church. And why are you late? Those two right there have to get just perfect. I had two daughters. When they were teenagers, it would take them months to get ready for church. I'm telling you, they had to do their hair and spray it and then wash it and try again and spray it. They were during that time when the hairdo had that spider thing that had to be just perfect on the front of the hair. I went into their bathroom. My feet stuck to the floor. There were little bugs down there going, help us. Kick us loose. We'll never go to the kitchen, we promise. How many of you had teenage daughters? May I see your hands? Okay, let me see if it's just my family. They take 2 to 3 hours to get ready for church or anywhere where they're going to have friends. But they live like pigs. Am I right about this? I went into my daughter's room one day and rats and roaches were coming out with their suitcases going, we cannot live like this anymore. Now, listen, this is important. The Bible says, the joy of the Lord is our strength. That's not talking about the wonderful laughter that you're giving me as a result of my punchlines. The joy of the Lord comes from having your feet firmly planted on the ground, the truth that God loves you, He has forgiven you, and you will live forever. That's what the joy, and what that does when you know that kind of joy, you're free to laugh. Someone defined humor, the best definition I've ever heard, they defined humor as a gentle way to acknowledge human frailty. Isn't that what the gospel is all about? We don't come to God going, I've got it all together. We come to God saying, I'm a mess. I want you to forgive me. And He forgives us. And that gives us a chance to look at what we have. When we come back after a short intermission here, I want to talk about how my wife and I have survived 54 years of marriage. Write down the word survived. It's a very important word. Survived 50 years of marriage. But I want to tell you, first of all, we have something for you. These are sold out, but we want you to have you have a chance to get them. And so we're going to make that possible today. And I want to show you what's in here. I wrote a book called Fully Alive, which was made into a motion picture. This is the story of my journey back to wholeness. I was at the depths of depression, wondering if I even wanted to live another day. I weighed 240-some pounds. I couldn't tie my shoes. I remember standing on a beach with my little tiny granddaughter, and I realized that if she was 25 yards out and drowning, I couldn't save her. I could hardly tie my shoes without breathing hard. And God, through a series of events, including the fact that that little girl I was standing with, when she was 4 years old, walked away from a campsite in Colorado, in the mountains of Colorado, 10,500 feet, and disappeared into the wilderness. And God miraculously made it possible for her to be found. A rescue team had come. Do you know what it's like? I'm not going to ask you that. I'm going to tell you, it is agony to have a rescue team come and you hand them clothes so their dogs can smell of the clothes because they're going to try to find her with the dogs. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. The first couple hours you think you'll hear her voice on the next little breath of wind. If I were to show you a picture of the wilderness we weren't in a campground, we were in wilderness. We made our own camp in wilderness. And so she was gone for a long, long time. The rescue team told us that kids don't go uphill. So they lined up a mile above our camp to give a little bit of leeway. And then they made their way down past our camp and then down further until we couldn't hear their voices anymore. To make this short, after searching for 4 hours, I fell on my knees in a swampy puddle and couldn't get up. My strength was completely gone. And I did something I should have done at the very beginning. I called out to God. I said, Lord, I can't take another step. Please help me. And I began to bargain with God. I said, you can have my airplane, but please, you can have my home. We were blessed with a vacation home way up in the mountains. I said, you can have my retirement fund. You can have my career. And then I just fell weeping and said, Lord, you can have me. Take me, but please bring this baby back. As I was saying that prayer, a teacher and her husband were climbing the mountain. At tree line, they saw a backpack underneath the brush, and they went over to look at it. It wasn't a backpack. It was my little granddaughter, 4 years old, in her colorful little outfit, sitting on a rock. They said she was sitting on a rock with her arms folded across her chest like this. And the teacher said she went up to her and said, Are you okay? And she said, my granddaughter said, I cannot speak with you. This beautiful woman, a believer, a teacher, said, "You think I'm a stranger?" Oh, that's so funny. I'm a teacher. And my name is Molly, which just happened to be the name of my little granddaughter's family's best friend. I'm Molly. She said, Jaden, my little granddaughter, dove into her arms sobbing, my grandpa is lost. She was right. But I write in the book that this was one of those signposts where God was leading me back to be found. The picture that I bring sometimes is when the rescue team brought her to me. By the way, they found her 2.5 miles straight up the mountain. I don't have normal grandchildren. They brought her back to me, and I'm kneeling in front of her, holding her hands, and the rescue team has come because they brought this girl down, and they found every camp they could find, and they brought her to us, and God is good. And I held her hands, and they said, "What did you say to her when you grabbed her hands like that?" And I said to her, "You are a bad, bad little girl." You buy that? I memorized what I said to her. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And one of the reasons we have to be bold for Jesus is no matter where you have gone or how far you have wandered, come back to him, and his response will be, "I love you. I love you. I love you. Let's go from here." The DVD of the motion picture is available in this little package that we have. We do the package because with this number of people, it's just hard if you just do one piece at a time. So it's the DVD and my movie, Under the Influence, my DVD, Under the Influence, which isn't what you think it is. I went to the doctor one time, and I had a huge bump on my head, and he said, "You have the worst sinus infection I've ever seen." And he said, "I'm going to give you some medicine, and then I want you to go home, and if it doesn't go down," he said, "come back tomorrow, and we'll take a needle, and we'll go up behind your eye and drain that." And when he said that, it just started going down, He said, "Now, you can't drive home." And I thought he'd just given me his opinion. So I got in the car and started home. I got about 3/4 of the way home when I saw the lights in the back, pulled over on the side. I rolled down my window. The policeman took my license, and he said, "Mr. Davis, do you know how fast you were going?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "You were going 7 miles an hour. Have you been drinking?" I said, "No." I said, "No, I just don't want them to stick the needle up behind my eye." This beautiful, wonderful man found a way to get me home and get my car home. He did not give me a ticket. He realized what had happened. And that's Under the Influence. And that is a lot of comedy. Super Sheep, a message that I have preached in churches all over the world about how God compares us to sheep. Any of you ever met sheep? Any of you live on a farm? Yeah, what a nasty comparison. But it's perfect because we're just like them, and we have the desperate need of a shepherd. And that's in there. Each of these is just about an hour long. And then, Is It Just Me? And then finally, this book, Sheep Tales. This is our best-selling book. The publisher did not keep it very long, but when we told people about it, it just flew off the shelves. It's Sheep Tales, Bible stories according to the animals who were there. So a little sheep has been chosen to be sacrificed, and he's wondering why. Why is this happening? And he has a little friend, a little raven that has had terrible experiences in life, and he's trying to tell the raven all of these stories so that maybe the raven can help him figure it out. And just again, so the story of Daniel is told by a little lion who couldn't even lick Daniel, and how they figured out that something supernatural was happening. Now, it doesn't destroy the story because the scripture, the real scripture, is right in there with it. C.S. Lewis wrote a book, Tales of the Narnia. You remember Aslan? I wept reading about Aslan. I'd known about Jesus all my life. C.S. Lewis said he wrote that to usher people past the dragons of familiarity. We get so used to, and when it comes at us from a little different direction, I guarantee you this will give your grandchildren and children an interest in the gospel. This is $50, which is much cheaper than it would sell in most places. We don't have them here because they're out of print right now, but we're getting them printed as I talk. And I promise you, if you write your name on an address and phone number on a piece of paper and give it to my wife, she's out there at the table, and then give her a piece of paper with a president's picture on it, we will send that to you postage free the moment they come. It might take a week, might take a week and a half, but we'll send this entire package to you. As for tonight, and they also have paper back there. If you don't have paper you want to write yours on, you just give her that. She'll take good care of it, and it'll be okay. You girls were great when I was messing with you. There you go. Will you share that with your sister? That is your sister. And your friends, too. Share it with your friends, too, okay? And your mom and dad, right? We're going to take about a 10-minute break here. If you could go back and pay for that, I'd sure appreciate it. Here's a little break. If you need to take a walk, now's the time to do it. The second half of this program will not be as long as the first half. We will also be back there after the program, so if you want to jot some things down to get this material, we'll be happy to do that as well after the program. And after the program, I will be back there to sign for you. Sign any... Oh, I can't sign stuff that's not there. Good grief. I see you looking at me like, what's wrong with you? I'm old. I want you to come up after the program. When they come back in, I want you to come up here with me for a little while, okay? All right.
Can you sign our pieces of paper?
Yeah. I tell you what, I'll sign the stuff that you buy before it comes to you. I promise that. By the way, I almost forgot to tell you, you know the story about going to church and swinging your arm and that, and telling that story? About 4 weeks after I told that story, I got a 4-page letter from a lady, and the letter started out like this. And you call yourself a Christian, comma. I'm going to tell the radio stations to drop your program. I'll call all of them personally. I'm going to encourage people never to buy anything that you produce. And I hope that what you're doing will stop as soon as it can possibly stop. You were in front of 2,000 people. And instead of sharing the gospel, which I did, by the way, you encouraged those people to abuse their children. It's quiet here because a lot of you going, I'm going to jail. Nothing could be further from the truth. I am disgusted when I see children having to go through that. I represented a group called Compassion International for years and years who help children who are in poverty and in those kind of situations. I'm involved with 2 young people who help trafficked children to get out of that situation. I hate it. But here's what happened. She heard that. She drew her own conclusion. She put the brakes on and didn't hear the gospel. I encourage you, don't do this to your pastor. They have targets on the back of their head. And sometimes they may say something that you don't think is appropriate. Listen, because their heart is in presenting the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, here's the truth. I get hundreds of thousands of letters over 50 years. was thinking about committing suicide. I have lost track of the number of letters I've got, letters and emails that I've gotten like that. But I started laughing and I realized God wasn't done with me. I want to come to know Jesus Christ. All kinds of those letters, hundreds of thousands of them over the years. I get one letter that says, and you call yourself a Christian. Guess which one I obsess over for the next several weeks? I did it so long that I said, I'm never telling that story again. And then I was in a group like this, and I forgot, like I forget lots of things, I forgot what the next story was. And that story was sitting on this shoulder, talking to me. Tell me, it's okay, tell me. So I told the story again about how the devil tries to destroy Sunday and how we're reaching for our kids in the back seat and all of that. Before I finished, I saw a man get up way in the back of the auditorium and come up to the front. He stood in front of the stage looking up at me. And then he went over and came up on the steps before I was finished. And I finished that time with a prayer. And when my prayer was finished, he came up to me and poked his finger in my chest and said, I'm going to tell you something. When you were talking about swinging your arm at the children in the back seat, God taught me a lesson about that a long time ago. I said, what did he teach you? And that little man got a twinkle in his eye, and he leaned forward and whispered in my ear, God taught me that a touch on the brakes brings them right into play. Now, assume that this organization is going to give away a cruise to you. But you have to take somebody with you. And it'll be a choice between the 4-page letter writer or a little old man with a twinkle in his eye. Who are you going to choose? Who are you going to choose? If somebody talks to you about the gospel and you're not a believer, who are you going to choose? So I'm saying God is the author of joy, and I encourage you to live with joy. I encourage you to do that. Secondly, the second reason that we need to be bold for Jesus. Thank God, perfection is not a requirement. Now listen, I've said that, and I had a theologian come up one day, and he said to me, perfection is a requirement. And I can't keep my mouth shut. I said, yes, it is, sir, but Jesus took care of it. He who was perfect took care of it for us. I want to say this to you so clearly as you're bold in telling people about Jesus. People aren't looking for perfect people. They instinctively know they don't exist. They're looking for imperfect people who love a perfect God and know that God forgives them and helps them be better the next day than they were the day before. I've been married for 54 years. We don't have a perfect marriage. I was speaking to 2,000 keeps coming up. It's the right number, 2,000 preachers at a large church. I teach speaking skills to people all around the world. And I was speaking to this group of preachers, and I told them that my wife and I have conflict. And it got dead quiet. And I said, we really do. We have conflict. We argue. She tries to get me to eat organic food. You know what organic is? It comes from a Latin word that means small and expensive. She's been buying organic eggs the size of jelly beans. Just little tiny eggs. No yolk. I'm telling the truth. It just drives me insane. I know what an egg is supposed to look like. I grew up on a farm. I could hear those chickens laying real eggs. Other chickens come along to support. Organic chickens just walk along and one of them goes, hey, you dropped this. Nothing harms relationships, whether it's family relationships, even our relationship with God, more than when we try to perpetuate the perception of perfection. I raised 2 daughters trying to appear perfect to them. I didn't raise perfect daughters. I raised daughters who hid their imperfections from me. When you as a parent or you as a friend or whatever it might be, say the words, I'm sorry, I was wrong, it opens a heart to understand that forgiveness is available from somewhere. My wife and I argue. And it's getting worse. Because neither of us can hear anymore. We have entire arguments with one word. What? What? We argue about bedtime. I've told her, nighttime is not a time to discuss things. Nighttime is a time to sleep. And still, I'm almost asleep. I hear, are you sleeping? Not anymore. I've been thinking, stop. You don't share your feelings anymore. Ladies, look at me. We don't have feelings. That isn't true. We have feelings, but we don't express them the way women do. Men don't come home from work and go, I felt this in my stomach and it came up here. And, I just don't know. They don't do that. You know a man's had a bad day by how far the cat flies across the room. But I love her. And so I decided I'm going to share my feelings, but I got to do it in the way I do it. We were headed to preach in a church in Jacksonville, Florida, and we came to a big intersection, and across the street was a place that I can't go anymore. It's part of God's healing. I lost so much weight going there. I gained so much weight going there. And so I remembered. It made me sad. And I heard the voice of the Lord say, that's a feeling. So I said the name of the place with great sadness. Dunkin' Donut. And she said, what? I said, Dunkin' Donut. She said, what? And not in a kind way, I turned to her and I said, what part of Dunkin' Donut don't you understand? And she turned to me and said, Ken, don't condone what? We pulled over and laughed so hard that stuff was shooting out our nose. You ever experienced this, men? Wake up. Listen. I heard a noise. Wake up. What if he's escaped from somewhere? I think he's in the garage. What if he has a chainsaw? She said, what if he has a chainsaw? And then she said, go see. How effective can I be chasing a guy with a chainsaw out of my garage when I'm sporting a pair of tighty-whities? How is this going to work? Hey. You with a chainsaw. Get out of here. Snap. You know where all of this leads, folks? It leads to us having honest discussions about sharing our feelings. It leads to, here's what it leads to. This is why I love this woman, why I've been with her for so many years. I told that story in front of 20,000 some people at a Bill Gaither gathering. And I told the story, and I was done, and I started off the stage, came down, and I looked at my wife, and she was laughing uncontrollably. She just was laughing and laughing. I said, What is wrong with you? She said, it just hit me. I've seen your underwear. She said, I think you could hold off a guy with a chainsaw. By the way, here's another thing. Diane suggested we go vegan. Vegan is a Native American word that means bad hunter. I think I'm overtime. I really do. 8:30. I'm just going to, one couple more stories. Some of you saying no. I see other people going. My grandchildren have changed my life. From 22 to 13. But they didn't start out that way. The little girl that was 4 when she got lost is now 18 years old, graduating from high school, going into college. Praise God. I'm going to tell you something about her to finish this out. But first of all, I want to tell you something else. When she was born, I'll never forget it. They let us in the room. My beautiful daughter was having the baby. They don't used to let you in there. But now you can go in, and we were in there. And it just amazed me how things have changed. I said to her, we had some friends in there too, by the way. I said to her, are you having a contraction? And she put down stuff that they had her drinking, and she looked up at a monitor, and she said, yes, see where that goes up? That's a contraction. When my wife was having her, I leaned over to my wife and said, honey, are you having a contraction? That's the last thing I remember. Doctor came in, he said, the baby's coming, you're going to have to leave the room. We left the room. I stayed by the door. I put my head against the door, and I began to pray for this little child who God knew before the beginning of what we know as time. It was room 354. I'll never forget it. It might have been 453, but it was a number. And then I heard the sound of a voice that had never been heard before. Coming from a little body that had a portion of my blood flowing in its veins. And I lost it. I collapsed. Not from a heart attack, but from a heart attack. I give you this advice. Never collapse in the hallway of a major hospital. People come from every direction. Before I could get up, this guy came. By the way, never let him do that thing to you. Hurts like fire when they do that. And you can't get them to quit. Ow, ow, my daughter's giving birth. Ow, ow. Son, if you're ever laying down, you hear someone yell clear, stand up. They brought the baby out and took her to the aquarium. I pressed my face against the glass. How is it possible? I haven't held her yet, and I'd give my life for her. I saw her in there, And then Nurse Cratchit came into that room, and she needed a blood sample. You know they do this. And she stuck a needle in the baby's little foot, and her arms went out, and her face turned red, and I could hear her screaming. And I began beating on the glass, yelling, "Cratchit! Cratchit! Come here, bring your needle with you. I'll show you a blood sample, Cratchit." I learned something that day, too. Only takes a SWAT team 5 minutes to get to the hospital. I was talking about the low point in my life that I wrote about in Fully Alive. The grandchildren didn't know about it, but little Jaden and the granddaughters had to ride with us when my wife realized we had to get to a hospital or a counselor real quick because I was in a dark, dark place. At the time, she was younger than 4, the back seat. God is so amazing. Halfway there, this little girl who has never been told anything about this said, "I think we need to pray for Grandpa." And she made her sisters hold hands with her, which was a chore in itself. And then she prayed this prayer: "Dear God, help Grandpa see bunnies and happy faces, and help him see rainbows. And don't let Grandpa forget about Jesus, please." And she closed her prayer the way she always did. She couldn't say amen. She said, "All the men." She's 18 now. We don't allow her to say that anymore. God puts all these things in place. You see, not only should we be bold for Jesus because he's the author of joy and we should live with joy, not only should we be bold for Jesus because we can rejoice that perfection isn't a requirement. You have been forgiven. But we should be bold for Jesus because his love never fails. Never, ever fails. I've gone too long, but I wanted to be able to get my heart out to you as well as to see you laugh. This sweet lady, I don't know your name, but I just want you to know I saw you spit all over the man in front of you when you were laughing. I saw this young man looking at me like I was an idiot. Come on up here for just a second as I close this. Come here. Yeah. Have a seat. What is your name?
Brian.
How old are you, Brian?
21.
21? Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Are you married?
No.
You ever think about it?
Yep.
An honest 21-year-old. I love that. 21. I saw you looking at me going, hey, what's wrong with him? Look at me when I'm talking to you. I'm old, okay? Do you know what gives me great joy? You're not always going to be 21. Someday you're going to be 65. You're going to walk into a room, make a little circle like a dog looking for a place to lay down because you're trying to remember why you came into the room. You hear that laughter? That's old people. Any of you ever leave and come back hoping that'll trigger something? It is unbelievable, and it's going to happen to you. I was in a room once, I called my wife and said, honey, help me. I've left 3 times. I don't know why I came in here. Have you met her yet? She's out there. No. Yeah. She said, you're in the bathroom, idiot. Figure it out. So filled with mercy she is. I had a kid about your age once yell from the balcony, didn't you have to go? And I told him, we don't go when we have to go. We go when we're supposed to go. And I tried to go on with the program, and he yelled, "When's that?" And I said, "Depends." Put your hand on your head. What do you feel?
My head.
What do you feel?
My hair.
Hair. Yeah, feel hair. It's going away, son. No, I'm dead serious. You're going to lose that patch.
Yep.
Yes.
My dad's bald.
Oh, your dad's bald. Yeah. The reflection hurts my eyes. Listen. But God is good. As it goes away here, it's going to grow out your nose, out your ear. When I lose all of it here, son, I'm going to let it grow out this ear, down to about maybe here. And then I'm comb it up and around like this, and I spray it real good and run for president of the United States. Thank you for being up here, man. Give him a big hand. Thank you so much. God's love never fails, friends. Never, ever fails. I have met people the result of some tragedy in their family was not the same as mine. They lost a daughter, they lost a son, they lost a granddaughter. And I always felt guilty. I said in one of the meetings, I feel so guilty because I know some of you have gone through unbelievable pain without getting your granddaughter back. And the line was out the door to talk to me. The first lady said, I lost my granddaughters, 2 of them, last Christmas. They were murdered. I'm telling you the truth. And she grabbed me by the lapels and pulled me toward her. And she said, God isn't only good, son, he's good all the time. And when she told me her story, I lost it. Person after person. I remember going to the spot where Jaden got lost. And I sat there as a part of my healing, I sat there and realized that without Jesus, if she had been lost, I couldn't handle this. I could not handle this. Without Jesus, I wouldn't be on this stage. I'd be a sad story. But he's good all the time. I'm going to close with one story. And it's a story that people ask for everywhere I go. It's the most requested story. I guarantee you're going to love it. You're going to laugh. And you might say, well, why after such a serious kind of moment would you do this story? To celebrate the truth that we've talked about. And anyway, you're going to be sharing it with your friends. I was in Spokane, headed for Miami, longest flight in the continental United States. I had to get up at 4 o'clock to catch a 5 o'clock flight. It was before September 11. Now, if you got a 5 o'clock flight, you got to get up on Tuesday. On the way to the airport, I picked up a copy of USA Today. See, all across the audience, people going, what's USA Today? And whoever's sitting next to him going, shut up, we need to get home. USA Today. I picked up a copy of USA Today. I was too tired to read it, so I just folded it. I unbuckled my seatbelt, and I folded it over, and I put it on my airplane seat. The guy sitting next to me did not know about joy. He watched me do that whole thing. Then he turned to me and he said, excuse me, are you reading that? Now, I grew up believing you got to give people a chance. You can't let them fall into stupid pit all by themselves. So I turned to the man and I said, I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood you. Would you say it again, because I'm almost sure that I got it wrong. And he was so angry. He said, I said, are you reading that paper? And he pointed to a little piece of the paper sticking out from underneath me. And I heard God say, you gave him his chance. So I unbuckled my seatbelt, and I stood up, and I turned around, and I turned one page on the newspaper, and then I sat back down again. I said, yes, I'm reading. I'm doing the crossword puzzle. Leave me alone. I love your laughter. Please don't forget, God is the author of joy. Praise him because perfection is not a requirement. And understand that his love is eternal. Knowing those truths, there is no reason why you can't be bold for Jesus. Thank you for letting me be a part of this program.